feel free to skip also. So there's no
Sure,
pressure.
sure.
So yeah. So you're based out of Bangalore or Mumbai?
I'm based out of Bangalore.
Okay, that's nice. I think when we last connected, you were in Mumbai.
Yeah, yeah. So 1.5 years back, I came to Bangalore. I think now you're building a business, then you can't ignore Bangalore on the map, given the entire tech ecosystem is here. So that's what got me to the city.
Amazing. So now this is home for you. Bangalore is home.
Uh, See, I've spent 15 years in Mumbai, so Mumbai always is, has my heart. But of course, well settled in Bangalore, so now it is home for me.
Okay, sounds good. So that's interesting. Cool. So I'll just give a little bit of an introduction as to what are we doing. So basically, so to everyone who's watching, welcome to the Finance Story Career Insight series, where we bring you industry leaders to share market trends, learning, and what to expect in 2024. So as we all know, it's 2024. There's a lot of hype to the year. There's a lot of opportunities that can be unlocked, and to understand that better, there's nobody like a recruiter who can actually talk about the trends that are shaping up, and what can we expect from India and from the industries in 2024. So to help us understand this further, we have with us Swati. Swati is the best person. She is the co-founder of Scrabble, Jigsaw, as well as Game Room. And Scrabble and Jigsaw are recruitment firms. Game Room is an amazing podcast where they talk to entrepreneurs and I think people from all genre and cover their journey and their process of building their business. So Swati, thanks a ton for joining us. Means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chantal. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So Swati, I connected with you a couple of years back. Okay, and the first thing what struck me was I think a few years ago there were very few CAs who were into recruitment. Okay, very few of them. Now, yes, there are a lot of them who are giving up their fancy jobs to be a recruiter, which is again great. But what got you into recruitment as a CA like a couple of years back? I guess 2012 or something. What got you into recruitment, and how has your journey been so far?
So look, I'll go a little back in terms of how I landed into recruitment. So I cleared my CA back in 2006. I come from a small town, called Ranchi, and back when I was studying, there were limited options. There were 5, 6 career options: CA, MBA, engineering, lawyer, and medical. Uh, CA just happened because I there was no thought through in terms of whether I'm passionate about numbers or not. It just happened because family suggested, friends were kind of doing. When I was doing articleship, that's when I had realized that look, I think I'm not really passionate about it, but I cleared CA, and then I started working. I was a research analyst, and I realized that look, I can do this for 30 years, but this is not where my heart lies. I will be a very average, finance professional. Because for 30 years, if you're supposed to do something, it should be somewhere where your heart really lies. That's when a recruiter pitched me recruitment. I really didn't know what I want to do in life, but I was knowing what I don't want to do in life. I thought, let me just, probably try it out. That time, I think back in those days, HUL, ITC, EY, KPMG, those were the places where CAs would be. Recruitment used to be, people would perceive recruitment to be a calling job. So there was a lot of resistance from my family that, you've studied so much and now you want to just, get into a calling job. But I kind of, took a call that let me experiment because what I'm doing is something which I'm not liking. I started falling in love with recruitment. Recruitment is a lot about people. It is a B2B sales job. You're dealing with clients and candidates who are human beings. If you're good at dealing with people, if sales is something that you like, this profession can kind of work for you. One thing started leading to another. I did a lot of hiring as a recruiter for investment banking, private equity, venture capital, CFOs team, strategy, folks. And my CA background really helped me because I could really understand, not just from an HR balance, but also because I come from a finance background, I could really relate to my, candidates. And now that I'm building a business, what I did in, CA also helps me to build, the business. So that's how I landed up into recruitment.
Amazing. Okay, so now tell me about Scrabble and Jigsaw. I mean, you guys launched like in the last 3 years, I guess. But there's some great progress that you guys have made. It's I speak to a lot of people, and many of them are aware of Jigsaw, Scrabble. So, what was the idea of starting Jigsaw and Scrabble, and what are the opportunities that you see, in the recruitment space, and that's why you kind of started your own.
So look, we started Scrabble, back in the midst of second wave. When we started Scrabble, it was a group of seven people who came together and started, this firm. Uh, I didn't have a very very structured thought process at that point of time, but we wanted to, build a company, which has a soul both from an employee and from a client, standpoint, because this business is all about, people. But markets, as you kind of say, because if you look at this after second wave, hiring started happening in a crazy and a massive manner. Jigsaw we started last year, so Scrabble looks at mid to leadership hire, Jigsaw looks at junior level hire. So now we kind of cover, all kind of hirings, end to end. Work with close to 100, private equity venture capital fund. We do a lot of portfolio hiring for them, over 40 to 50 financial services platform, and multiple conglomerates in the country. So that's been the background.
That's excellent. So when I see a lot of recruitment firms, they are either into CXO level hiring, okay, or they're either into the mid level, right? But
Hmm.
you guys have, have seen opportunity in the mid level as well, because you have experience in CXO, and that could be, that could be the reason why you started. But tell me about the mid level. So what opportunities do you see over here? How's the hiring shaping up, and your view on it? Yeah.
So if you look at the market last year, which is 2023, the hiring has largely been concentrated at a mid level, or rather junior to mid level, because markets have been very very sluggish. People have been wanting to either delay a CXO hire or see if they can hire someone at a mid level and train the person, to move up the curve. Look, India is a growing country. The population of India and the demographics really support the mid-level, hiring. Ageism is something which is absolutely catching up, specifically in the new age, industry. So if you look at the new age sector, a CFO is no more someone with 25 to 30 years of experience. You can find someone with 12 to 15 years of experience also being, a CFO. And hence mid-level hiring is kind of, very interesting, and also is always evergreen, from that standpoint.
Okay. And when you say private equity, Swati, and you see you do a lot of private equity hiring, a lot of fund hiring. So, can you give us an overview? What are the opportunities in the PE space, and what kind of candidates do they look for? Even in startups, I see you do a lot of hiring for um, funded startups. What is it that they look for? Are they looking for finance professionals, or what kind of background?
Look, the way a fund is structured is they have an investment team and then they have an operating team. Now, in investment team, getting an entry into a private equity or venture capital fund is not an easy entry, because the barriers are very very high. Pedigree plays a very very important role for you to get an entry. CA, of course, is not a very preferred educational background from where they would want folks. Typically, these funds pick up chartered accountants who would land up in, Bain, BCG, etc. And they are planning for an MBA, so they would just pick them up as a pre-MBA analyst. I'm not saying that CAs don't land up there, but out of 100% of the professionals, not more than 2 to 3% would be chartered accountants. From a fund universe standpoint, that universe itself is expanding. Back few years back there used to be 80 to 100 funds. Now if you look at funds, there's so many small funds which has opened up. So many more global funds, sitting not in India but sitting globally and investing in India. There's so many corporate platforms now who have a corporate funds to invest in the private space. So that universe itself is expanding. So so to summarize, the universe is expanding, hence there are a lot of opportunities. But for a chartered accountant, you have to either be, amongst the tier one lot, from a CA standpoint, or probably go and, take a MBA degree from a tier one, college, because the entry barrier from a pedigree standpoint is extremely high in fund industry.
Fair enough. There's no middle way to this, right? There's no middle way to this. Okay. And when you talk about there are so many funds being set up in India and stuff like that, like why is it happening? Why is there so much of attention on India? What is your take on it, and how will this shape up, say, in 2024, 2025? Is it going to just continuously increase? What do you see?
So look, the reason being that no one really wants to invest now in China, because of whatever has kind of happened, both politically. So China is out of picture. If you look at investment opportunities globally, India is the place to look at, because from a demographic standpoint, India is very very well placed. Whether it comes to population, whether it comes to the way the country is kind of growing. That is the reason why funds are sitting with so many dry powders, and there is so much of interest in India. And of course, the next 10 years belongs to the country. You will increasingly see a lot of global players showing interest in India.
Amazing. So it's India's in its prime time, and it's the place to be. And you see a
Yes.
lot of, and do you, Swati, do you see a lot of people, say, internationally, who connect with you and say, hey, I want to return to India. Like, do you have opportunities for me? Is that happening a lot?
Oh yeah, yeah, it does happen, quite a bit. So, there was a time when you would pitch an opportunity in London, etc., and you would feel that wow, wow, it's such a great opportunity. Now, people actually kind of think through that whether it makes sense to kind of move to these places, or not. There's so many Indians who've moved out of India and they want to come back to India because there is so much happening, in India. So we see a lot of returning Indians wanting to come back to India.
Okay, okay. And what are the roles that you see which are most in demand? So I know that at Jigsaw and Scrabble, you all don't just focus on finance. It's an array of, you all cater to your clients as to what do they need, right? So what are the most in demand roles? And when I'm talking specifically, say, about CAs, we may be CAs, but we are not doing anything related to a typical CA field. So a lot of CAs want to diversify and, not be accountants or finance guys. They want to get into, say, product roles. They want to get into the investment team, but they're finding it difficult. So an MBA from a tier one school, right, with not much experience gets an entry easily, but a CA, because of this word CA, sometimes you're not able to get into profiles which you would like to. So most in demand roles, and how can I get into profiles and diversify?
Look, I think the most in demand roles are, look, every company is trying to become, tech savvy. So if as an individual you have done anything, related to tech, it could be anything. If you're someone who has probably automated the entire finance ecosystem in your company, or, you will always stand out compared to other candidates. As a marketing professional, if you're someone who has done e-commerce or performance marketing over the traditional marketing, you would not find it difficult to get job. So anything and everything which hovers around tech or automation is something which is surely in demand, because even if you look at the traditional setups, if you look at banks, etc., people are realizing that uh, you tech is no more a support function. It is as important product as your real product to kind of build a business. So that is from a role standpoint. Second is, as a CA, how can you get into alternate careers? Look, you will not really get a call, asking that, look, do you want to become a salesperson or you want to become, like a product person? If you really want to get into alternate careers, you will have to kind of hustle your way through. There are a number of ways in which you can hustle your way through. You can do a free internship. You can write to people on LinkedIn saying that, while I'm doing a finance job, this is what I really want to do. Can I, do a free internship with you? These are the number of hours that I have. This really works beautifully. The other thing that you can do is, keep building on your skills. There are a lot of times when CA don't get into these roles because people do believe that there is a lot of inward orientation that CAs have versus the outward orientation. So keep building on your skills. Third is, networking. It never goes out of flavor. Be right there. Keep networking. You will get rejected 100 times, but you will get an opportunity once, which can kind of work out for you. It's not, there is no straight answer to it. You have to just keep trying. If you're hungry enough, you will be able to kind of get into it. Be very very active on social media and LinkedIn. If there is a particular topic you are interested about, become a subject matter expert, write about that topic. So these are the things which will kind of help you get noticed, and someone may want to give you a break.
Amazing. And Swati, like if I want to find an opportunity, say Mr. A wants to find an opportunity, right? So how can they be a part of the network of your recruiters? Like how do they spot it? So do they write to them, or do you all have a community or organize events? What is it where they can interact with you guys?
Look, be very active on LinkedIn. Most of the good recruiters you would find on LinkedIn, they keep posting jobs on LinkedIn. So be connected with them. Be active on LinkedIn. Become friends with this community. They will help you navigate this community itself. So just being out there in social media is going to kind of help you. Don't have a transactional relationship with recruiters. Try and meet them in person, because that's when you will build a real relationship, and that's when you'll be able to navigate that industry. uh, Also, when you're building a non-transactional relationship, see, there are a lot of times, there are a lot of candidates who have just become friends of mine because we have helped each other leverage each other's network. It may or may not result into anything. So if you're just out there helping each other, that's the way you kind of build or get into a community. So that's going to be my suggestion.
Amazing. That's well said. Like in the last 1 year, you could say, 1 2 years, startups have not been in the news for the right reasons, right? So, do you see there's a greater emphasis on hiring finance, risk, and governance candidates? So, and what are VCs thinking as well from that perspective when they are hiring right now? Earlier, I guess they would not even consider a CFO or a head of finance. So, how is it changing?
No, so of course, diligence has become, more stringent than what it was before. The other thing is that finance, of course, remains a very, very important function for the investor community. In fact, earlier also the investor community would kind of, get involved. Now it has tightened, quite a bit. So the moment you see an institutional funding coming in, investor community does take an active part, or in ensuring that the finance function is, in proper shape. So it is a very, very important function for a venture capital or a private equity, fund.
Okay. And how do you think, candidates' mindsets have changed in the last 2 to 3 years? How do they look at an opportunity? How do they look at their career? Do you see like a drastic change between mid or senior level professionals?
Look, there was a time when people, when Zomatos and Flipkarts of the world, when they were setting up, then people would not really want to get into startup. People would perceive them to be a very, very risky proposition. Now, of course, times are slightly different. There is precedence of people moving out of established organizations and making a mark in the new age system. So, one thing that has happened is that now you don't have to sell the new age ecosystem. People are pretty much aware about that ecosystem. You'll find two kind of candidates who feel that, look, I do want to build now, move towards a new age ecosystem to build my career. And second is people who feel that, look, I want to remain in the blue blooded MNCs or the traditional ecosystem, because that's where I kind of belong. So that has been the mindset shift. Second is, business finance is increasingly becoming a very, very important function from a finance standpoint. Specifically after COVID, people are kind of understanding and realizing that finance is not a reactive but a proactive, function, and hence having, uh, it is not just bookkeeping. You need to have a strategic finance, person as well. These are two things, which we are kind of seeing. And third is, of course, like every other function, there is a lot of emphasis on automation around the finance function, itself. From a candidate mindset standpoint, it's less to do with finance. I think it's more to do with the Gen Zs kind of now coming into the corporate world.
Yeah.
The mindset is very different from what millennials would kind of have, because uh, I think, while they are smarter, they also have a little less patience. So you'll see a lot more job hops, in a CV than what you would have seen in the earlier days. So these are a couple of things which we have seen in the past 2 3 years.
Amazing. Swati, when you talk about startups, because I guess you hire for a lot of startups as well. You know, most of the startup founders, they would have never worked in the corporate world, most of them, right? Or they would have worked for a year or two, and now they're building their team. So if they're looking for a team member, say from an MNC who has worked in a very structured manner, or who's older to them. So how does a founder, okay, adjust to this person? Because even he has to, it's a lot about matching capabilities too. So and expectations, right? As founders, we work in a very unorganized manner, in a very in our head sometimes. So can you just talk about this?
Look, there is no straight answer, to this. Frankly, if you are a part of an MNC and if you're thinking that you want to make a move to a startup, what you should really think of is that does being in an unstructured environment, are you comfortable being in an unstructured environment? Only if you're comfortable, you should make a move because, startups are very, very unstructured. After every 3 or 4 days, you'll find something, different altogether as an agenda. But of course, things kind of fall in place. The second thing is stakeholder management is a very, very important aspect in a startup ecosystem because when you work with these founders, they're slightly young. They probably may or may not know finance functions. They have 100 things on the table. Plus, the kind of growth that they are chasing also is, uh, probably a very, very huge number, and hence those industry works in a very different pace altogether. So. You should be aware that stakeholder management is something which you would have to do versus the founder, that's when you should kind of sign up anything with a startup. It's not that the founders don't make an effort, but I believe that if you're joining something, you should make the first effort, kind of effort, and you should probably be the giver in the relationship, and that's how you will be able to grow and nurture yourself further in that relationship. So that's broadly what it is. With finance professional, investors are also closely involved, so you do have a lot of interaction with investors. That also kind of helps you, settle in within the ecosystem.
Okay, this is great. Now I'll just take it a step further. Okay, if you have to give a founder any advice, okay, when he's really building a team of great caliber people, right? But he's young, raised a lot of money, that's fine. So, I mean, a founder also will have insecurities and nervousness, right? When you're hiring someone from a larger organization. So what is your advice to the founder? How do they balance and deal with this newness?
So my advice would be that let go of the control if you're hiring someone at a senior level, because otherwise, there is no point for you to have the control and hire a senior, talent. It just takes away the purpose of that senior talent. The second advice would be to have a little bit of patience for the person to settle within, the ecosystem. And the third advice would be, think before you're hiring whether this hiring is actually needed, or not. I think if these three things are in place, rest other things kind of fall in place.
Amazing. What about the salaries in India? I mean, salaries have gone through the roof in the last few years, right? That's what we see, and we see a lot of salary hikes happening. Startups are really paying a lot of money. Like I was just talking to this one guy. He told me like, hey, the startup is paying me 50 lakhs as a salary. It's 50 lakhs, and he's currently at what 20, and they're giving me ESOPs and a lot of these different aspects. So, what's your take on salaries in India, and how will it be in 2024? Do you still see startups paying a lot, or you have to take a haircut if you want to join a fast growing startup?
So look, last year the startups did not really pay a lot. In fact, they were very, very clear that they would kind of either juniorize the talent and not pay irrationally. But if you go to ask me, in the past 2 to 3 years, the salaries of finance professionals have gone up. In the next year, I see the salaries remain where it's not going to go over the roof, because unlike engineers where there is a real demand supply shortage, I don't think there is a demand supply shortage currently from a finance standpoint. But there would be a demand supply shortage for some niche roles. For instance, if a SaaS company has to do an IPO, I don't think there would be more than 20 to 25 candidates, who would have, those kind of experience who you can really kind of, talk to, today in the market. So those are very, very limited job where you may see some premium. Otherwise, the salaries will be where it is the next year also.
Do you see unreasonable expectations from candidates in terms of salaries?
Last year, the expectations 2023 was not unreasonable. I frankly don't see finance professionals having unreasonable expectations as compared to the other functions. Finance professionals are more, on the reasonable, front.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so Swati, what are the 2 to 3 challenges that you face, as a founder, co-founder of your company, as a recruiter? What are the challenges that you face on a daily basis?
As a recruiter,
As a recruiter, as a founder, both.
okay, so I think the challenges I face are not different from the challenges with everyone else faces. One is of course there is a constant thrust. Look, we were 7 people who started Scrabble, and we did belong to a certain culture and DNA. In the next, so now we are 65 people, so
Wow,
there is a constant challenge to ensure that the same culture remains within the organization. This is one challenge. Second is that we are a very very people driven business. So in a people driven business, you are as good as the last experience that you get from anyone who works with Scrabble and Jigsaw. So ensuring that the client servicing across the level is similar is of course the other challenge. Third, of course, last year the markets have been sluggish. So it has been like a tough market from a recruitment standpoint. uh, Otherwise life is good. These challenges are just a part of the journey.
amazing. So when you say the market was sluggish, okay, so do you expect the same in 2024? And being a recruitment firm, like the revenue is placing candidates. So if clients are not hiring much, how does it impact? Like, how do you deal with it? Like, you have a team of 65, so there is pressure. So what's your process of handling all of it?
So next year we've already started seeing some green shoots from a hiring standpoint. So I think next year, from a hiring standpoint, the market should be slightly better as compared to previous year. So when I say markets are sluggish, the way to deal with it is that if you would approach 10 clients and get one role, you are supposed to approach 100 clients and generate that one role. All you have is your input and control, so you need to kind of increase your clients reach out. You need to also be a little more flexible and nimble footed when it comes to your commercials, your modus operandi, because that just help you get foot in the door in these markets. Third, of course, we started Jigsaw in this market, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because this was the market where only junior level hirings were happening, and we kind of capitalized on that. So, that's how we have been dealing with sluggish market.
Amazing. And any closing message, say for job seekers, it could be from any function. Like, what is it that you would like to tell them, and how do they reach you? Stuff like that.
Look, the best way to reach out to a recruiter is, on LinkedIn. You should always meet a recruiter. You should be aware of, the 3, 4 recruitment firms which are very, very active in your function. Be active on, LinkedIn. Be very honest. I think one thing what happens in today's world is that there is a tendency to pick up the offer, goes the recruiters, goes the companies, etc., etc. I think as job seeker, you should understand that it's a 25 to 30-year-old career. It's a very very small world. Your goodwill is the most important thing which you're going to build. It may not show an immediate impact in your salary, but you will not even realize through this goodwill, what can kind of come your way. So just be very honest in terms of what you would want to do and what you would not want to do. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, and I have this last question. How do you deal when candidates back out? Like, they take an offer from 100 others, or they take it from you, and then their organization retains them, or they just change their mind, or they move to another country. So, how do you deal with that? When
Look, I think frankly, after so many years into recruitment, it's pretty much for me. If I hear about candidate backwards, it's like just getting up and brushing your teeth because you're so used to it. But that's not what happens in the early days of recruitment, because People do feel that, look, this candidate was like almost like my friend, and we spoke so much, and suddenly this person has ghosted me. And people do feel let down, and organizations also do feel let down. What we can do, what is in our control, is have very very detailed interaction with the candidates, meet them and understand that whether this is going to make sense for them or not. Be very honest with them, and not just push them to take the job. As a recruiter, if you think that this job is not meant for the candidate, you should upfront tell the candidate that, look, I think this is not a place which is meant for you. But eventually, you are dealing with human beings who are uncertain, and they do change their mind anytime, and back out does happen. What we suggest our clients is that we should keep backups. If a candidate has backed out, and if a candidate comes back to us for a job, which happens more most of the time, we do have a very honest conversation with the candidate that maybe you should have applied a little more wisdom and handled this in a better manner. And that's how we kind of deal with it.
Amazing. Okay, what about climate change and AI? There's so much of noise about Gen AI, climate change. Do you see companies hiring for roles like this?
Look, what we see is, if you look at in US, companies with artificial intelligence have already started getting like crazy funding from a crazy valuation standpoint, and the same thing is going to replicate in India. Climate tech, of course, is a very very important aspect, wherein you will see there are a couple of funds which is dedicated only to climate tech, and in some shape and part we have started seeing investment in climate tech. Surely also, if you look at the Gen Z's, they do there is a lot of Gen Z's which does want purposeful work.
Yeah.
So for instance, people, if you see products, there are shoes which come which is climate friendly. You will get bags which are climate friendly, which does find an audience. So climate tech and the AI is here to stay. We have just crashed the industry as of now.
Okay, amazing. Cool. So, if anyone has any questions, you have to type in the questions, or you could connect with Swati, right? She'll be more than happy to take up questions. So, Swati, I guess I've asked you all my questions. Anything you think I've missed that we should add, and probably we should include it in our article later on that I could have missed?
No, I think nothing from my end. You pretty much covered everything.
Okay, done. Swati, thanks a ton. And I will make this into an article. We will post video snippets as well. And
Sure.
that's about it. And all the best for your ventures. We'll host you again.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chantal.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Swati. Take care. See
Thanks.
you.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching in. Thank you. See you. Bye.